Learn the Black Gemara. We are in Moed Katan Daf. We're learning about why you can't get married on Chalamoid, and we brought down one of the four reasons that we gave was because Ema Arva Simcha B'Simcha, and in halacha doing machlekes whether that reason is halachically correct or not. But now the Gemara is going to discuss where do we know it from. We already mentioned Yerushalmi learns it from Lavan, but our Gemara doesn't want to learn from Lavan, possibly for the reasons we gave yesterday. So the Gemara gives a different source. Says the Gemara 6 lines on the top of the page. The Eimar v'simcha b'simcha b'nolan. How do you know, Taka, you cannot mix two simchas together? See, it says, "Vayash shleima be'eis hahi esachag." Shleima HaMelech that then made the Yom Tov, because they just concluded building the Beis Hamikdash. V'chol Yisrael, and all the Eden Ima with him. Kahol Godel, this unbelievable large congregation. Melovei Chamos ad Nachal Mitzrayim, from a place called Melovei Chamos until the Nachal Mitzrayim, which is the Nilus. Lifnei Hashem Elokeinu, before the Eibishter. Shivas Yomim b'Shivas Yomim. They celebrate 2 sets of 7 days. Arbosiyim, a total of 14 days. So no, they celebrated once. First, they celebrated the Chanukah's Beis Hamikdash, and the second one they celebrated was Sukkot. So they had 2 separate days. Now, the Misa, if it's correct, the Ma'ara Simcha B'Simcha, why have 2 separate days? You should have waited till Sukkot anyway. And then remember, just have 7-day celebration, and have in mind that this is for Sukkot and for the Beis Hamikdash. What would be the advantage of waiting? So Taisa says that this way people don't have to take off work for so long, because during Chalamoid you don't work, and then another 7 days. It's a long time. I'm not sure why Taisa say that. Taisa said, well, this way we would have avoided eating on Yom Kippur. That year, nobody fasted Yom Kippur, as we'll see in a minute. I'm not sure why Taisa doesn't say that. The basic Gemara's question. Says the Gemara B'Dilma Minta. That's not Ayah. Maybe because they finished building this English early on in Tishrei, you're not going to delay such an event. So therefore, they celebrated. They finished. They had finished that. However, let's say maybe we don't wait. So this proves nothing. Maybe Shlomo didn't want to wait because as soon as they finished the Beis Hamikdash, they celebrated. But let's say if they would have finished Taka Ed of Sukkot, maybe they would have celebrated the 7 days of Sukkot and also joined in with the celebration of completing the Beis Hamikdash. This is just a historical fact. That's when they finished it. The Gemara, if you're allowed to have it, they could have. Okay, maybe you don't delay building Beis Hamikdash. They could have just a little bit and leave that out of Yom Tov, and you would benefit that people will take off work less, or you won't have to eat on Yom Kippur. Says the Gemara, Shiyurei Binyan Beis Hamikdash. We don't delay the construction of the Beis Hamikdash, even only part of it. Says the Gemara, okay, so don't delay the actual Beis Hamikdash, but they should have left behind. But Amal Kal Yoidet. You remember we learned that there's a on the roof. There's a little section that's an that comes to a point, and higher up, and that place, it was an armor wide, they were placed in metal plates, and they would have all these spikes sticking out so that a bird shouldn't sit there. We don't want anything to generate too many dead fowl or anything else over there. So it's called armor that Kalya Oidif, chases away and destroys all the Orim, all the crows. So they could have just done that. And so the beginning itself was intact, completed. They didn't delay that, but they delayed this part over here, and therefore they would celebrate on Sukkot. So the fact that this is part of the Beis Hamikdash, they couldn't leave it behind either. So therefore, you have no proof. Maybe they just happened to finish building the Beis Hamikdash at that time. That's what they celebrated. They couldn't delay it. But if somebody, let's say, has an event that takes place in Sukkot, fine. You could have 2 Sukkot at the same time. You know how you know it? From the story of Shlomo, but the fact that the Torah says 7 days and 7 days, which we all know how to count, would be 14, and yet the Torah spells, and yet it's in Tanakh, it spells out, it's 14 days. We'll have to say it again. We have to say that both for the reason why it spells out 7 days and 7 days tell you that they kept the 2 distinctly separate, because we don't mix mitzvahs together, simchas together. You have to focus on each one on its own. Similar to a concept, we'll learn a certain you don't bundle up mitzvahs. We want you to concentrate, focus on each mitzvah. That year, this is amazing. No one observed Yom Kippur. Because Kippur was included in the 7 days. And every single day they had a party, and they had a mishta v'simcha. and therefore they didn't keep observing Kippur. But even then afterwards we're worried. Well, so clear. Imagine entire Klal Yisrael, nobody observed Yom Kippur. Maybe we deserve to be annihilated. Yotz the Baska of Amrulaham came out of Baska and rang out and said, everyone who attended, and the reason why you didn't Yom Kippur is because you're celebrating about my basic Mikdash, my home. You're Mezuman, you're prepared to go to Haba. So the mother, my daughter, Shutla Hafsham, whether they can eat on Kippur. What was his basis? Omru Kalochem, they made a Kalochem. Ma Mishkan. Ma do the Mishkan, she ain't Kedushas Gizaylam, it's only temporary. The carbon Yachidoich, Shabbos, we know that every single Nasi brought a carbon by the Chanukas Hamishkan. And each Nasi brought as an individual, as a Yachid, so it's called a carbon Yachid, and they brought a Shabbos as well. We'll soon see how we know that the Shvati brought a Shabbos. Maybe they skipped Shabbos. But they brought a Shabbos, which is an Isa Skila. They did that. Why? Because of the Chanukas Hamishkan Migdash. When it comes to the base of Migdash, the Kedushas oil of the Migdash is forever, even when it's destroyed. The place, the site itself is Kodesh, as we learned. And Korban Tzibur, and the Kabbanas they brought were Korban Tzibur. What they brought during the Chanukas Abayis is Kabbanas Tzibur. And the Yom HaKippurim is only Onish Kodesh. Like Kodesh, surely our celebration should override Yom Kippur. What were they worried about? Had a Kabbalah. They were worried about was Hassam Tzeder Gevor. Over there, how did they celebrate? They broke Kabbalah. The same broke Kabbalahs for the Eibishter's sake. Over here, here they were eating and drinking. They were consuming. They were the ones who enjoyed themselves in honor of the Eibishter, which is very different. Possibly they did the wrong thing. So you want to question why Taka? Who told them to have to eat and drink? Why couldn't they celebrate like the first time around? They could just celebrate, dance, sing, and say about Torahs and everything else. Who said you have to have a Suda? Who said you have to eat and drink on Yom Kippur? Mechel and Nechel v'lalishta. Says the Gemara, the very important words. Ein simcha b'le'achila v'shtia. True simcha even cannot be unless you also have a Suda at the time. Says the Gemara. Now, you said before by the Mishkan that every Nasi brought a carbon, private carbon, even on the day of Shabbos. How do you know? Well, Mishkan Lo Shabbos, no Hainu, Mishkan Lo Shabbos. Ilema Midachli was in the pasuk. By Yom Harishon, the first day, is Nachshon ben Ami Nadav, and then it says by Yom Mishkan on the seventh day. The Nasi ben Ephraim was Eli Shama. So the first day was Sunday, the seventh day was Shabbos. So we see clearly from here that on Shabbos they brought a carbon. Who said maybe Dila Shul Kavana? Maybe they missed Shabbos. Friday was the sixth carbon, Sunday was the seventh. And why is it called the seventh? Not the seventh day of the week, but the seventh day of the Shvati brought Kavanas. Our Nachmish across the Posse became Ashte Osayim on the 11th day. So Mayim Kulay, so just like days is consecutive. So it says 11, it means is what do you call it? Consecutive days. So too, and this Yom here is extra. Why does it say Ashta Yom? It's extra. It's to tell you that just like day follows the day before, same too. When it says 7th day, it follows the day before, which is it means it was Shabbos. Consecutive days. Says the Gemara, who said the Dilma Yamim Haru'uyin. Maybe the 11th day means days that you could bring the carbon. See, Krachris on the pasuk begame Shtei also that on the 12th day, Ma Yom Kulirotzu. Just like the days are all consecutive. Says the Gemara of Dilma, perhaps maybe over here also by the 12th day it means days that are suitable. To psukim you don't need to say the same thing. So therefore must be tell you that the Nasi brought on Shabbos itself. Says the Gemara, Migdash the Doichek. How do you know the base of Migdash pushed away Yom Kippur that they ate Yom Kippur? Out of Bosnia in 14 days, and we maybe Gila Yamarin. Maybe they celebrated the 7 days for the base of Migdash, days that you're allowed to eat and drink, and they therefore did not include Yom Kippur. They started a few days, 1 day extra before Yom Kippur. So when a Goma, we learn out Yomim Mahasam. We learn out from the Nasi in the Mishkan, just like it says Yom there, it means consecutive days. So here also it means consecutive days, including Yom Kippur. Yotze Baska Vamlan was came out and said, Kulchem was one how you're going to go to go to him, Habla Minala Dochel, how do you know that they was Michael them? It's a bit hard to say more question because they heard a Baska said that you're going to him Habla, obviously they was Michael them. But Heinrich is for them completely that there was be I guess residual aveda. The Tanya Chalifa learned. It says when they completed their festivities, it says the pasuk on the 8th day, he sent the people by Baruch they blessed the king, and they all went back. And they went back to the tents. That means their homes. They were all jubilant. The Tuvi Lev, they were good, in a good mood. Al kol ha'tova asher osa Hashem, all the good Hashem did to David, after his servant. We had all this whole thing in Gemara Shabbos, the Lamed, well, Yisrael Amalek, and to the Eden. So now the Gemara explains what actually happened. They went back to their tents, their tents as their wives were learned yesterday. Oh, there's a wife. Shaholchu, go to the Shaholchu umatzu n'sheim betara. They all came home. None of the women were did this. Smeichen, they were happy. Shenenu maziva shchina, that they had enough maziva shchina. It was clear the women did not attend the event of the Chalukas of Beis Hamikdash. They all remained home. So it appears. The Tuvi Lev, or they came back with their wives to the tent, and they didn't have marital relations while they were away. The Tuvi Lev, they're in a good mood. Each one of their wives fell pregnant, and they had a child. A call up table, all the good shiyotz, the basket. What was the good? A basket came out and said, "Kulchem zumanim l'chai olam haba." So of course, that call up table, we know that the basket came out and said that they go to olam haba. The David after what happened? How did David get here? David passed away already. All Yisrael, Amma Yisrael's nation. So the Gemara said, "Bishlam Yisrael, Amma the good thing was David Meichel." Avon Yom Kippurim. So the table was the basket, and how David Meichel says, "But all the good Hashem did, Amma Yisrael." Fine. What's the story of David as Eved? Now remember that people, till the very end of David Melech's life, they maligned him and they accused him of doing an Aveda consorting with Bathsheba, which is a married woman, and forcing Uriah Chiti to go to the front, and they had him killed, which they felt was completely unethical. So till the very end of his life, they harangued him for that. So Amar Avinu Merav, B'shor shebikesh shleima lahachlis Aron l'mikdash. So this is what happened. But finally, the Beis Hamikdash was completed. They wanted to bring the Aron to the Kodesh Kedoshim. Dov kusha Aron, the gates closed, and they couldn't get them open. Amar shleima esim v'abar. She said 24 tefillos, leinene, but there was no response whatsoever. Pasach v'amar se'usha Arim l'sheichem. Open your gates. Leinena didn't answer. Kiva Shamar Hashem Elokim Al Toshe Pnei Mishichecha. He said, Eibusha, do not forget your Pnei Mishichecha, who's referring to David HaMelech. Then he said further, Zochra Lechazi David HaMelech. Remember the goodness of David HaMelech. B'yad Nena, the doors open up. So then the people realized that David HaMelech was a tzaddik, and they maligned him for nothing. But David, all those people who hated David. Suddenly their faces transformed, kishula kideda, like the bottom of a burnt out pot. The other hakol, and everyone knew once and for all, shemochel that Eibusha was meichlim on the sin. In the Gemara Shabbos, it says there that whoever said he sinned was a mistake. Here the Gemara seems to be saying he did commit a sin, but the Eibusha was meichlim on the sin completely. Rabbi Yehuda ben Amsoi, but Rabbi Yehuda ben Gadim, these two great Tanoim, Rabbi Yehuda ben Amsoi and Rabbi Yehuda ben Gadim, Tonu were learning Parshas the Dodi, Beit Avshim Yechai Yeshir, if the Menei, they said they bade him farewell, we're going to go back home. But at night, the following day, they went to say to bade him farewell a second time. He said, I'll goodbye yesterday. You once taught us, Talmud says goodbye to says farewell to his Rebbe. But then things change, plans change, and he remained in the city that night. He then has to bid him farewell a second time. So now it says, so on the 8th day, on the 8th day, he sent the people, which is the 22nd day. Remember, there's only 7. There's 8 days of Sukkot, so it's the 22nd day of the month. They benched the king, and then the pasuk says, on the 23rd day, Shilach said again a second time. They said, "Oh, goodbye." No, they stayed overnight. On the calendar, if somebody says goodbye to the Rebbe, then plans change. He remained overnight. He said, "It has to leave a second time." Turned to his son. He said, "Beni, Adam halolo, these people are noshim shel tzurahim. These people are people of great caliber. Zilga bein levarcha, go to them and get benched. So we had this Gemara about Tzura, we had Gemara in Tainus, and there the Rashi says about Tzura means, in places also, it means tall, and tall people command respect. Now, usually Baltzura means people of stature, people of great caliber. Why would Rashi there change it to say just tall, a physical, biological thing, not an achievement, an accomplishment? It seems possibly as follows. The two people here was Rabbi Yehuda ben Gadim and Shimon Uzayim. Rabbi Yehuda ben Gadim, we have somewhere else in the Gemara, and that's Gemara Shabbos. The whole story of Shimon ben Yochai, it was Rabbi Yehuda, Shimon ben Yochai, Rabbi Yehuda, and Rabbi Yasi were sitting having a discussion, and whether the Romans deserve to be commended for all the great skyscrapers and shopping centers and everything that they built that benefited the Yidden, but their intention was never to benefit the Yidden. And Yehuda ben Gadim there, it says, went and passed on what the conversation was. And eventually the government decided they want to kill Shimon Yochai. He had to hide in the cave for many years. So maybe Rashi is wondering, what's going on here? So how could Yehuda ben Gadim be called a Baltzura as if he's somebody special? But look what he did. So therefore Rashi seems to change. Baltzura is maybe more to do with physical Baltzura than spiritual. However, if you read the Gemara closely, the Gemara here, it seems Yehuda ben Gadim was a Talmud of Shimon Yochai. Shimon Yochai had a lot of respect for him and time for him, as we'll see in a minute. So it seems that perhaps over there, Yehuda ben Gadim never told the government. He told over somebody who told somebody, and eventually word got to the government. It was never he who passed it on, and never had intention to say it in a way that will jeopardize the life of his Rebbe. Anyway, so Shimon Yochai said to son, these people are great people. Zilga bayin levar, go to them and get a brach. Also, he went to he found the Koromo Krodot. He found they were having engaged in discussion, these two Talmidim, and they were following these two psukim that they need to understand. See, one pasuk it says in pasuk, Palis Magaraglecha, you should go ahead and you should weigh your footsteps, and all your steps should be all prepared and organized. And the way Rashi learns and many of the Shainim we talk about when you're doing a mitzvah, whether it's a big mitzvah or a small mitzvah, you should you should measure the mitzvah so that you should choose the greater mitzvah. And even though it says you don't sit there and you shayko every mitzvah is the same. That's talking about a mitzvah goes a long way. You have to do it regardless of how great the mitzvah is. But if you can only do one mitzvah. The question is which one? Choose the greater mitzvah. And then we have another passage that says, Oirat Chayim Pen to follow is the way of life you're going to go and measure. Don't measure anything. Mitzvahs, large, small, great, not so great. You have to do every single mitzvah. So which one is it? That's how Rashi learns. Ritva, another Rishonim that we're talking about here, learning Torah versus mitzvahs. One place it says that you should weigh up, that Torah is much more important than mitzvahs. Another place says don't weigh anything. Whatever comes your way, you should do. So the answer, mitzvahs that can be done by others, and they will be done by others, and you can choose which mitzvah you do, choose the greater one. And kan over here, nobody else can do the mitzvah except you, then don't measure the mitzvahs, whichever comes to your hand first, do first. Now, there's a famous machlekes the Radvaz, the Chacham Tzvi, about somebody who was in prison, and then the government that said he has one day a year that he's allowed to go home. Should he choose the first day that he can go, even though the mitzvahs that he'll be able to do then are small, or should he reserve it for a day like Yom Kippur so that he can do bigger mitzvahs? And from this Gemara right here, there's a proof, it seems, that if no one else can do the mitzvah on your behalf, you got to do it yourself. Do not go ahead and choose larger mitzvahs or greater mitzvahs. Whichever mitzvah comes by your way first, go ahead and do it, which sounds like the Radvaz. Go ahead out of jail straight away. Don't make a cheshbon that you can reserve, delay your freedom to another day so you can do the mitzvah then. This is one of the proofs of Chamsri bringing a proof to the Radvaz that you do the first mitzvah you can, no matter how big or small. Actually, it's Rashi and Beis clearly said the same thing about Garden Korban Pesach, but this is the seams from Pshat Nimara here. Hada Yasha, they were still sitting engaged. The son didn't have a chance to ask them for bracha, and they were still sitting there to come a boiler. Another pasuk came up. See, it says on the one hand, says he was learning Torah is more precious than all other precious stones. The whole chafetzecha and all of your personal assets, l'yishba, don't equal Torah. In other words, there's nothing more important than learning Torah. It seems only your personal needs. But let's say mitzvahs, Yishuba is equal to Torah. So if you're learning Torah and you come across a mitzvah, you should interrupt your Torah through the mitzvah. That's what it seems. Yeah, another passage seems that kol chavetzim leishba, that is nothing equal to learning Torah. So therefore, even if you come across a mitzvah, don't interrupt your Torah through mitzvahs. Which one is it? Now, even mitzvahs are not equal to learning Torah. So we answer the same thing. Can be mitzvah mitzvah can be done through others. Don't interrupt your Torah. Can be mitzvah mitzvah that cannot be done through others. You should that you have to drop your Torah to do the mitzvah. There's there's a machlekes in a Bavli and in a Shalmi, whether if somebody is learning Torah to Rasul like Shemir Chay, does he have to drop his Torah in order to read Krishna? Our Gemara in Shabbos that says yes, you do. You have to interrupt your Torah in order to read Krishna. You know, Shemir Chay had to interrupt his Torah in order to read Krishna. But the Shalmi says that you don't have to interrupt your Torah to read Krishna because the user expression is Zeh Shinin v'Zeh Shinin. What do you mean interrupt Torah in Krishna? Krishna is learning Torah. Remember, we had Gemara Menachah. We'll have Gemara Menachah that reading Krishna, you yaitze Perek Echas Shachar, the Perek you yaitze the mitzvah of Talmud Torah just by saying Krishna. In other words, that our Gemara Menachah learns like the Yerushalmi that Krishna is a din in Talmud Torah, and therefore, if you're learning Torah, why interrupt Torah in order to read Krishna when you learn Torah achieves the same thing? But our Gemara in Shabbos learns that reading Krishna is not a din in Talmud Torah; it's actually a din in Krishna. In fact, Abaye learns, and Taisa Menachas even Paskins, that reading Krishna that we do is only with the Rabbanon. I was the Taisa clearly with Shachar Kamecha, Ahu B'div the Torah. That's talking about Torah. In other words, Abaye is saying that the Krishna that we have to read by night and by day is a din in Talmud Torah, rather than a din in Krishna. So if you, but as Krishna is only with the Rabbanon. We, however, Paskin that reading Krishna is not Torah, like it seems in the Bavli that Krishna is not a din in Talmud Torah, even though you might be yet to Talmud Torah, but that's not why we read Krishna. Krishna is our pledge of allegiance, and that's what the mitzvah is all about. Omrule, they turn to him. My boy, you're standing here. I see. What do you want? My father told me, I want to come to you to bench me. Omrule, they said the following: the desire, the halavai, it should be the tizra. You should plant, that you shouldn't harvest. Ta'ayil, you should, and he understood what he was saying was ta'ayil. You should bring your schayra, you buy your merchandise to sell. But tefik, it should never leave your possession. In other words, you won't make any proper sales. Or tefik, they leave your schayra leaves, but nothing comes back in return. Lechorev beisecha, your house should be destroyed. V'leisa v'shpizach, and you sit there on your own. Levalva beside the table should be turned upside down. V'leitechza shosachal, you shouldn't see a new year. These are the brachas that he went to hear. He also came back to his father. I don't know, they're taunting me. I'm sure they weren't cursing me, but they gave me. I don't know what they were so cryptic when they said it. Just doesn't make sense, and I'm in pain. I don't understand a word they're saying. You say you don't understand that all of these things that they said to you were just brachas in disguise. Said, "My Allah, tell me exactly what they said to you." So he told him, "This is what they told me." You misunderstood. Hanach kula bichas and all brachas. Tizra, you should plant v'loy techatz, you shouldn't harvest. It meant toilet boni v'loy yemusu. You'll have children and you won't outlive them. Ta'ayil v'loy teifuk, you should bring in and not go out. Ta'ayil is kalosa, that generally the daughters-in-law go where the husband is. That you should bring a daughter-in-law into your house, v'loy lemusa mincha, your son should die, they'll and they'll leave you. Or they shouldn't get divorced, and they really once you bring them in, it should be there permanently. Teifug v'lo ta'ayla should go. He wasn't talking about merchandise, talking about family. Teifug v'lo ta'ayla, you go out and not come back. We're talking about your daughters. Your daughters are going to go live with their husbands. And once they leave your house, you don't want them coming back home because they were divorced or the husband passed away. Toilid bansa v'lo yamusa gavrayu, their husband should die, and they'll have to come back and live with you. Lechorev beisach, that your house should be destroyed. Where do you go? And you'll sit there at your hotel. The high alma ushpizach. This entire world is like a hotel, temporary stay. He alma besa, the world to come. That's a permanent house. See what it says? It says kirba batema la'olam, that they brought inside the houses forever. I'll take you kibim ela kibram. They're great. That when you pass away, you go to Elam Haba, which is your permanent home. So therefore, he's saying here that you should what do you call it? You should be able to live in your Spiza for a long time. So that's what he's saying to them. Even though this world is only in Spiza and your house is Elam Haba, we want you to live in Ushpiza, sit in your Ushpiza hotel for a long time. In other words, you have Arichas Yamim Mashal. The valval Pesarech table should be turned upside down, messed up. The Boni Banti will have lots of children, and what do children do by the table? They throw things around, they turn the whole, there's mayim in the house. And we love that mayim. But like Terza Shosachada, you shouldn't have to see another new year, which means, because in the Torah it says that when you get married, the first year, Shana Rishona, you should be with your wife. You shouldn't have another Shana Rishona. Once you're married with one wife, and that's it. But like Thomas, Intov, you shouldn't have to, your wife should never pass away. But like Tanasif, Intov, you'll have to marry another woman. You have to have another Shana Chadash. Why in the world didn't they just openly say all this instead of saying it? It's just like Chassidus explains, that the Rebbe explains in the Sichos, that the Teichacha, the Zohar says are really blessings, but the blessings are from such a high place that they couldn't be openly revealed. They have to be disguised. Otherwise, the Malach HaMavos will try to stop it from happening. Same thing here. These brachas, those beautiful brachas, that they didn't want to say it openly because then the Malach HaMavos is standing in the way. So they came such a high mucker that the only way it can come down here is by being concealed. A similar story of Shimon Chalafta, Ifta Menei the Rebbe. Shimon Chalafta said, bade farewell to his Rebbe, which is Rebbe, you know, see. Amalei, Rebbe said to his son, Zil Gabe, I want you to go to my student Shimon Chalafta, get a bracha from him. Amalei, he went to Shimon Chalafta. This is what Shimon Chalafta said. Yehi halavai deloy tivayesh, veloy tizbayesh. You shouldn't shame others, nor should you ever be embarrassed yourself. Also, Gabavu, he went back to his father. Amalei, my Amalek, what did Shimon say to you? Amalei, Milam Balmastami. He waffled. Amalei, that he told me. Amalei, Birchach, Birchasa, Birchach. So what are you talking about? This is the same bracha that she gave to Klal Yisrael. The Tani Bani repeated it. See, it says in Pasuk, you should eat and you should be, it should be plenty and sated. Be allowed them, and you should go ahead and praise the Eibushter. What did you do? Wonderful thing they did to you, and you shouldn't be. But then it says, and my people should never be shamed. And then it says, you should know. I find myself amidst the Eden. And then it says, my people should never be embarrassed. In the same pasuk, it says it twice. So the same thing is what he said. Why twice? One, you shouldn't shame others, and one, you shouldn't be embarrassed yourself. And then, then it continues saying, a woman can make a tachshitim on Chalamoid. Remember, what exactly are the tachshitim that a woman puts on? She paints her eyes with paikesses, she parts her hair, and then she puts some blush on her face. The other say, that she removes all her hair from her body. The visa of Rav Chizda, that's a very interesting thing. The wife of Rav Chizda, Mikashta Ba'anpe Kalosov. The daughter-in-law was getting prepared for the wedding and putting all this makeup, and they had the makeup lady there, and the Rav Chizda's wife was doing the same thing, even though she's obviously a much older woman. So Rashi uses an expression, which I was a bit odd. He says there, Kol Kach Skena, she was so old that she had a daughter-in-law. How old do you have to be to have a daughter-in-law? Especially in those days, they got married young. Anyway, but she was so old. Yosef Rav Huna, one of his students, Rav Huna, sat there and he observed. He saw Rav Chizda's wife was putting on makeup, trying to look young. The Yosef Kamal, he said to her, Rav Chizda, I understand. This whole thing about women putting on makeup and it's important and she has to look nice, pretty, is Ella Yalda, a young girl for her husband to press. I was a Kana, but an old woman, life. What makes her old? Because she had a daughter-in-law. Omale Elikim. So Chizda said, I swear, Afilu imcha, even your mother, in more than that, Afilu imcha, even your grandma, Afilu Aimedas al Kibra, even she has 1 foot already in the grave, very, very old, will still put on makeup, and they want to look beautiful. The Amri Inchi, people say, Bas Shisin, a woman 60 years old, is Kibas Shis, is like a girl who's 6. Like Kal Tabla Rata, when they hear the sounds of music, they run and they feel like dancing. They feel youthful and energized and young. Women like to feel young regardless of their age. So 60-year-old is one extreme of 6. 60, I guess, is the contrast of 6. But why Dafka 6? Because we had in Rashi and Chumash of Chai Sarah that Sarah was 127, and we said over there that 20 like 7 when it comes to beauty, according to Rashi. That 120 like it comes to sin, and 20 like 7 comes to beauty. And once a girl is 7 years old, as far as I learned from that Rashi, interesting, that a girl should no longer be in the men's section of a shul, they should be separated from men. And so 6 years old is the last time that a girl can run around and be everywhere and be youthful and energetic, so on. So the same thing is that a 6-year-old woman naturally wants to be beautiful, and so they should. So that therefore they're allowed to on Cholamai do the same thing. So what about Yehuda said they should not go ahead and put on these things to remove her hair because it's very painful. Like today, they put wax. Yehuda says Isha Latasim, they should nibble a lot at the time while she's wearing it. She looks ugly. The whole idea of you have to look nice, and she looks ugly while she has this wax on. Oh, so see what she puts on. However, the seed if it's, let's say we put on lime and that lime can be removed, you can peel it off pretty much straight away on Chalamayid. If she can put it on and take it off a few hours later on Chalamayid, then it's all right. Even though right now she's in pain, it looks ugly, but it's for short term because the end justifies the means. Because a few hours from now she'll feel very good about herself. Even though it's a pain to now, as long as later on it brings to her joy, you're allowed to be permitted to do the Chalamayid. And the joy happens during Chalamayid. Says the Gemara, does Rabbi Yehuda hold the svara that what? That you're permitted to allow pain now if there's ultimately the joy? But now we learn, Rabbi Yehuda says, we're learning more about the Zara that things you're not allowed to do 3 days before their holidays because we don't want them to go to the churches and to give thanks to their gods. And one of them is to pay back their loan. The other one is to take payment from them because then they will go, they feel good about themselves, even though it's painful to pay back, but they'll feel good eventually and they'll go to the churches and thank their God they were to pay back the loan. That's a chamsei. Rabbi Yehuda says, no, nifroyin mehen, you are permitted to take money from them. And why? Because right now they are in pain. They're in pain. They had to pay out money. They're not happy. So therefore you can do that right before their holiday. Says the Gemara, they said to him, so Rabbi Yehuda's mighty not allowed to pay them back because that obviously makes them happy. We don't want them to be happy on the day of their festivities because they'll go to the church and thank their God. But Amrullah said to him, so how can you take payment from them? Alpha Mate said, actually, okay, they're unhappy that they had to pay back the loan, but afterwards they think about it, they no longer have a debt, and they're happy that they paid you back. So obviously, Abu doesn't believe in that thing. He doesn't care that tomorrow they'll be happy. Right now, they're in pain. That's good enough. We focus on the here and now. So how come a Chalamoid allows them to put on this lime because tomorrow they'll be happy, but right now it's painful on Chalamoid? Forget the laws of Chalamoid. The Kulu makes it after. Everything that we allow you to permit you to do a Chalamoid is painful now and causes happiness tomorrow. For example, cooking. You think you want to cook, you'd rather have the food ready straight away, but you have to spend a few hours to prepare and cook and so on. But because you'll be happy in a few hours, that's good enough. So all the activities that permit you to do, which right now causes pain, but since ultimately they bring you joy, you're allowed to do it. So that's why it is made of Chalamoid. That has nothing to do with the situation by a goy. The Semer Lachazmani knew. That's how they all are. Ravina Kusi. Ravina says, I'll give you a different answer. Kusi, Kusi is never happy that he paid back the Jew his money. It's not like tomorrow he's happy. Oh, I don't know the debt anymore. He's always unhappy. Why did I have to pay the money? I wish he would forget. I wish whatever I could have avoided it. If a Jewish girl, if a Yiddish girl came, she was reaching puberty, but here's why she's isn't but she's starting to grow hair and everything else. Aniyas, if they want to remove the hair, typhlis, ice, and they remove them, they using lime, ashida, which is pretty painful. Ashida, those are richer, typhlis, which says that they use fine flour, and benois malachim use shemen hamor. They use this oil, shemen hamor. Shisha chadoshi by Esther, shemen hamor. They use the shemen hamor. What kind of oil is that? My shemen hamor. Satches is an oil that they also mix in all kinds of spices, and that's what they pour on themselves, and they would remove the hair and also make their body glisten, shine. We're talking about oil here, olive oil that was not a third prepared. Those early stages of the olive, that oil has that capacity to remove the hair and makes the body glisten. The time we learned on fiknun, we learned that fiknun you shouldn't use for melachas and so on. What kind of oil is that? So it was the third ready. Why in the world would the girls put it on themselves? She made sure as a sign, removes the hair, and it sort of fattens up and makes the flesh shine. Bibi had a barta. Now, Bibi had a daughter, Tafla Aver. So he went limb by limb, and he gave her whatever she needed in order to put it on the body, and then the lime, and then they would peel it off. But did one limb at a time. Shoka Bodal and And then afterwards, she looked so beautiful that she was able to find a shidduch, and the husband's family gave $400 dowry for her, because she suddenly became a very pretty girl. Had a kusi b'shivoisha. He was a guy living in that neighborhood and was very envious. How did Bibi make his daughter look so pretty, and then she became so much in demand? So Havale Barta had a daughter also, so she decided to replicate what Bibi did, but she didn't realize that you have to do one limb at a time. So she covered the entire body. Tafla b'chad zimna. She covered the entire body in one go with this lime, and the lime does not allow your skin to breathe, but you basically covered the entire body. As a result of that, she died like from asphyxiation. Oh, Mesa, and she died. Ama Kotla Bibi Labarti. She went around telling everybody, Bibi, did some kind of a ruse or something and caused me to kill my daughter. Amram Nachman said, not all the girls have a lot of hair, and this is the sign. Okay, Nachman says, Rabibi, the Shasi Shikra, he drank a lot of beer, so he's very masculine. Boy in Banset Felas, the girls that he raised, that he sired, had to have these measures to remove their hair. They were very hairy, very masculine. That's testosterone. Anan, but he said, Nachman said, we don't drink beer. So our daughters are not hairy. Like boyin banset fel. Our daughters do not need to remove their hair. They don't need all these methods. And that note, very interesting Gemara today. And that note will stop here.